The Sweet Sound of Success show is brought to you by the Mentor Studio. The Mentor Studio is an exclusive mentoring and training program for social influencers, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and startups, bringing personal development to the underserved around the world. And brought to you by Success Strategists. Simple strategies that work to develop your business with flow and ease using proven strategies and the right tactics. This is the Sweet Sound of Success with Sue Wilhite, Success Attraction Expert. Leisa Reid is the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. She coaches you how to get booked, stay booked, and attract your ideal clients through speaking. She has personally delivered over 600 speaking engagements. On this show, she will reveal the number one secret to getting booked and staying booked. Welcome, Leisa.
Oh, thank you, Sue. I'm so excited to be on your show today.
Well, I'm thrilled because I've been speaking for decades, and I get up on stage. It's like, oh yeah, give me a mic, whatever. You want me to talk? This is cool. And people look at me like I'm crazy, absolutely crazy. So I love finding somebody who feels equally about, let's get on stage.
We're a special group as
Right.
speakers.
Right. So for those of you who haven't seen my show before, what we're going to do is find out how Leisa got to this point. Why she is as enthusiastic about speaking as she is, and maybe give you some tips and pointers to get you on stage. But this is structured around the hero's journey. And the hero's journey was not created necessarily, but codified by Joseph Campbell. And he looked at the mythologies of the world and realized there was a cycle to all of these stories. And not all 16 pieces were in every story, but most of them were. And I am not going to do all 16 pieces. It would take us forever. So I only do 5, which I think are really important for the entrepreneurial journey. And those 5 are the cough, cough, ordinary beginning. Yes, none of us have ordinary beginnings. The call to action, what brought you to that point. The big hairy monsters. Now, after doing some 60 odd of these interviews, what I'm discovering, and to nobody's great surprise, is that especially for entrepreneurs, the big hairy monsters and the call to action tend to be pretty together, shall we say. And so it might blend in a little bit for that one. Then there are, for entrepreneurs, really important part, allies, guides, mentors, coaches, wind beneath the wings, wizards who pop out of anywhere. We need them. You can't do it by yourself. It's way too hard to do it by yourself. And then finally, sort of the other part of the coin, it might be that some of your allies finally got to be your allies after looking at you as though you'd run 3 heads and said, what are you doing and why? Joseph Campbell calls this the journey home, because as an entrepreneur, you've done things that many, many, many people have not and would never consider, and they don't get it. So how do you deal with those who are kind of going, what was that? Why are you, how do you spell that? Is that a diagnosis? Which somebody actually asked in my case. So Leisa, what was your ordinary beginning?
How far back should we go?
Well, I come from the Celtic storytelling background, and we start with 63 million years ago, the dinosaurs walked the earth. And I have had to learn to do the laser version, kind of tighten it up from from there. So go as far back as your inspiration, perhaps, or prior to your inspiration for becoming an entrepreneur. What were you doing?
I'll fast forward us. I do recall, even as a child, having a desire to be a teacher of some sort, which in my world as a speaker, I really come from a teaching perspective. It's not so much about the rock star being in the front of the stage or the attention. It's really when I have a solution that is going to help a lot of people. I have always had a gift of breaking things down simply, and I have no shyness about taking the lead and letting people know how to use those tools or those lessons or whatever so that they can move about their day and have better success in whatever it is they do. So that's sort of the general thing. I saw a lot of examples. My mom was a teacher. I grew up watching my dad teach his own seminars and sell his tapes, and he was an entrepreneur. And then when I was even in college, once I realized I could major in speech communication, I called my mom and changed my major. So actually, I said I wanted to change my major. This was the second day of college. And she said, well, why don't you just wait? Why don't you take at least one business class first before you change? So I have to say, speaking was always a calling for me. I even taught at Cal State Fullerton when I was in college. When I was in graduate school, I taught there for 2 years, interpersonal communication. Now that kind of laid a little dormant. It wasn't that I didn't still enjoy teaching. I just, the jobs or the careers that I had didn't always fit exactly how I wanted. So I would just make it work. I'd be like, why don't I create a training manual and I'll train everybody on how to do X, Y, and Z, because I just had a way of seeing it, that it could be simple and we could get things done quickly. And if I explained it a different way and work with people, they could learn. So then I was luckily hired by a personal development company to speak on their behalf to bring in clients and fill their workshops. And that was when finally it all started to click together, that I was now a professional speaker. I was at 40 years old. So that's why I said this was a dream for a long time, but then it wasn't until I was 40 that I actually started becoming a speaker professionally. And that first year, they said, just go speak in the local area, get clients, teach them about mindset, invite them to the workshop, sell the workshop. That's what you need to do. Wow. I was like, I'm happy to do that because I absolutely believed in what the work that they were going to get done. I knew it was going to change their life. So I had a phone, I had a computer, and I went to work. Let me tell you, Sue. And so I booked 83 speaking engagements that first year in my local area. And I didn't really think that was anything to get too excited about until people started asking me, how in the heck did I do that? And that's then why. So I think that gets us into some of the other stages. But that was where we culminated and started to really put some gas in the engine.
Yes, you're not the first person to tell me that they achieved success by picking up the phone and reaching out to people and asking for the business.
Everyone wants a magic pill. I'm like, well,
everybody wants a magic pill. It's so funny. And this is exactly it. So I'm going to guess, and I could be wrong, that picking up the phone was not a big hairy monster for you. It might have been, a slight gnome sitting at your elbow. But
and sometimes, it's just like anyone, it takes the momentum. I had tons of sales training and sales experience, decades. In one of my jobs, I had to make 100 phone calls a day. And then as I got promoted in that company, I had to fire people who didn't make 100 calls a day. So it was pretty intense. It was a pretty intense time. I will say though, that when I had graduated from my master's program and had all the gumption in the world, no experience, I met with a recruiter an executive recruiter. And he said, you should be in sales. And I said, oh, no, 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 no. I don't know. I want to teach and train. I don't want to be in sales. Well, he was a better salesperson than I was, Sue. And what do you know? I ended up in sales.
There you go. How funny. Yeah. How hilarious. So what were some of the big hairy monsters that you did encounter?
I think when you are speaking, it is a great laboratory for any insecurity that you have to shine and rear its ugly head. For me, especially because I was in the business at the beginning of selling something you couldn't see, or maybe people didn't understand, like what's personal development. So it was like selling electricity when you've never heard of electricity.
Right.
And so for me, one of my biggest thoughts that I would have to overcome, which I call speaker's kryptonite, is are they going to like me? Do they like me? Did I say something wrong that now they don't like me? Or they, all around that, am I good enough? Are they going to like me type of an insecurity, which somebody who maybe knows me would think, wow, how could she have that? Like everyone likes her. She's so nice, so these are those deep, dark things, right? These are those deep, dark things that are laden from childhood, and doesn't mean I wasn't loved or anything like that. There's no one to blame here. It's just, we come up with these formulas in our head, and just like I did, and it shows up when I'm feeling vulnerable. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, psychologists have pretty much said that there's just two things that we need. One is to be loved, and one is to make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. And you can never get away from needing to be loved.
Right.
You can't bypass this. So every time you're getting up on stage, there's a whole new group of people who you want to love you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be a big hairy monster for pretty much everybody. The question is do you dance? Do you scream and run away? Do you, try to attack it? It's how you treat the monster.
And I think, for me, it's recognizing that that's what's going on. And this is a very quick conversation within my own head that no one's really privy to and I will catch it now. So I had the pleasure and honor of having a lot of support as a speaker for the first few hundred talks with the team at Productive Learning, which I know we'll get into in a moment, with who supported you through the path, through the journey. And being able to recognize when that insecurity comes up for me is huge, because at the time when I wasn't as aware of that, I would, for example, if I had a group that was really quiet and maybe wasn't, like, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, are they not enjoying this? And so I might get a little more animated and a little more like, come on, guys, and miss the boat completely, because maybe they're just a group that they're tracking with me, but they're not showing it verbally or through their behaviors. So I would have to check myself in terms of, like, what assumptions am I making that are not true about what's going on in the moment, and just stay the course and stay grounded and stay in my certainty and let go of the rest. Like it actually, and I mean, the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if they like me or not. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to get people to like me. I'm here to help the people who are ready to take that next step.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go to that really juicy part. Who were your allies and guides and mentors?
So many. Number one, I would definitely say my dad always encouraged me to be an entrepreneur, to do what makes my heart sing. He was my biggest cheerleader. He had written books and all these things in the 80s, before it was so easy to do all this stuff and self-publish and all that. And he was just an incredible mentor, not just father, but friend, mentor, person I would look up to. Moving into becoming a speaker, I did have a speaker coach. I also had other coaches. I hired people on how do I lead a webinar? It wasn't about public speaking, but it was like, how do I sell from stage? That's a totally different situation than speaking and training and teaching, right? And the team at Productive Learning majorly, I mean, a huge support, not just in my own personal growth through taking workshops with them, and they're still in existence, productivelearning.com, but the massive amount of mentorship and guidance and support on delivery, reading the audience, facilitating what I call hecklers, not people who are being mean. That's where we kind of think of heckler, someone who's like really being a
throwing the tomato.
Drunk, obnoxious person and it's not that. There's all different versions of hecklers. And how do I get triggered from different situations like I was sharing before? And then how do I shift that in the moment, like instantly from stage? Because you don't have time to like process that or anything. You got to like keep moving, right? So much support from that group as well. And of course, my family, my husband's massively supportive. Nice. My daughter, my mom would go when I would lead live workshops for Get Speaking Gigs Now. Before we went virtual, she would attend every single one and she would check people in for me and make sure everything was, ready to go. So my mom's my biggest support in that regard. And my husband would be there too. So I'm very blessed.
Yeah, very blessed. That's so cool. That's so wonderful to be able to have family support to do what you need to do, to be able to know people that have your back when Absolutely. You are being upfront and in front of people. That is so cool. So were there anybody that was kind of, are you an alien? What are you doing?
I think certainly there are times where my husband, although he's an entrepreneur as well, he does one thing, like he's a golf instructor. And so it's like, he teaches golf and he teaches golf and he teaches golf. That's what it is. And with what I do, when I was starting my company in 2017, I knew a lot about what I wanted to teach and what would be helpful for people in order to get booked and stay booked and attract their clients through speaking. But how that was going to be, then I had to create, how many steps is there? What kind of format do I want to give this to people in? Who do I want to coach? For how long? Why? For how much? Where do I get the clients? These are pretty common questions, especially in the coaching industry where there's this kind of non-tangible thing, but it's I always say it's super easy once you figure it out, right? Right. So he'd be like, like I said to him the other day, I launched my new class, Get Your Talk Ready to Rock. And I said, I think I probably mentioned this to you, but just in case you forgot, it's this. So I explained it because I'm always doing something. There's no way he can keep up with all the things that I do. And I don't expect him to.
Yeah, but at least he's willing to sit down and listen.
Oh yeah, he definitely is. Is.
Cool. How wonderful. So when we were chatting before the show, you said that you had some really cool things for folks who might be interested in speaking and definitely are interested in speaking. So yes. What was that?
For the people who might be interested in speaking, definitely go visit getspeakinggigsnow.com. You can get instant access to 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs. And that will be you'll see that in the notes as well. So that's getspeakinggigs with an S now.com, because you want more than one speaking gig, right? You don't just want one, you want multiple speaking gigs. For those of you who are listening, or for that person who's listening, and you're thinking, I've been meaning to be a speaker. Maybe you woke up in the middle of the night, you had your talk and you could see yourself on stage and you knew this was your destiny, but you haven't actually done it yet. You haven't actually started yet. And you have some questions in your mind of like, where would I go? How would I start? What would I do? But you know that it is your future. For you, I would highly recommend a speaker's readiness assessment with me. You can get that on getspeakinggigsnow.com/chat. Now on there, you'll find some questions that I'm going to ask you. and you just fill them out as honestly as you feel comfortable with, because that's going to lay a great foundation for our conversation. I want to hear, why do you want to speak? What's your vision? What experience have you had doing this so far? What's been your success? What's been maybe some setbacks? What's in the way of you moving forward, and how can we help you get there? And so we'll have that conversation and find out how we can best support you with achieving your goals. So that's at getspeakinggigsnow.com/chat.
Cool. So here's kind of an extra bonus question for you, Leisa. Surprise. So if there was someone who showed up on your chat or your phone or your email, and who would be just exactly the perfect person that you'd go, oh my God, this is perfect. I would love to work with this person. This is awesome. Who would that be, or what sort of situation would that be?
Typically, that is somebody who, I work with men and women, but I find that a lot of my clients are female. They're usually in their 40s or 50s. It does not matter. I can work with you if you're younger, but you usually have some kind of coaching service or consulting service that's $1,000 or more. And when I start to hear what you have to offer and what you are trying to get out into the world, you definitely have a passion for shifting the world, shifting people's lives. And that is so valuable. So I just want to, feed you with that. It's like, you're onto something. If you have been woken up in the middle of the night by a talk, or you're thinking of your talk while you're getting ready in the morning and you don't actually have a talk, that's my people. That's like, I'm like, we can make it happen. Okay. It no longer needs to just sit in your mind. It can be a real thing, and you can actually get out there and do that. And I think that's just such a powerful conversation to have.
Yeah. And when we're recording this, it's January of 2022. And when this goes out in the world, it will probably be a little bit later in the year, but not too much later. So you still have an entire year from the release of this video to go out and change the world. So Don't wait, do it. Just do it now.
I think, what did they say that when's the best time to plant a tree 100 years ago? When's the next best time today? And that's how I look at speaking too. And it's not even just a year. I'm so glad you brought that up, Sue. Speaking is something you can use for the rest of your career.
Right.
Whether you might change industries, you might move, whatever, you can still use what you learned, from me at least. It's about learning it and using it forever, not just for the next couple months or for one speaking engagement. It's a longevity game. Yes,
absolutely. 100%. Once you learn how to speak, once you get the microphone bug, it's yours forever.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Leisa. Thank you for sharing. Speaking is one of my passions. And like I said at the beginning, I love it when we get speaker coaches on the show because it's so cool. So thank you for being on the show and sharing your hero's journey with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And thank you to the viewers and listeners of the Sweet Sound of Success. What are your dreams for your business? You know what drives me crazy? Really smart business owners denying their talents because they've been taught it has to be hard, because they've been taught that they don't deserve their gifts, that they're not worth anything. They've been taught that their gender means they can't express their genius. I'm Sue Wilhite, and I want you to have access to your genius. I want you to go out and rock the world with your genius. So I created the Call to Action coaching program. It's all about getting to the heart of you and what you've got to share with the world to make a profitable business that thrives and allows you to make a difference in the world. Click the link to sign up for the Call to Action coaching program today. Don't let your genius go unnoticed.